there's these two hippos, and they're in this little pond in Africa, and just their eyes and just the ends of their noses are sticking out of the water. And it is so hot. And along the banks, these muddy, deep, dark, muddy banks, there's these alligators, and they're buried in as deep as they can get, I mean, up to their shoulders in this mud, trying to cool off and trying to get away from this just awful, humid heat of the jungle. And up, there's this overhang up above, and these giant, lush leaves, and water is collected on them from all the mist and the dew and the moisture in the air, and it's collecting in these beads and droplets of water, and they're running down and dripping off in steady little, like, drops into the pond. And there's these snakes in the trees, and these just giant, just boa constrictor looking snakes looking at these birds. And the birds are these big, beautiful birds, and they've got their feathers all flared out, trying to just take away the heat from their body. The only energy that these birds have is to go, and that's about it. And these snakes are looking at these delicious look birds, but they don't want to move because just the friction on their scales in this heat is just, it's awful. And there's these giant bugs crawling up the sides of these big trees, with all this dark oak, and they're trying to just bury themselves in the folds of the bark and just to get away from the heat. And it's the water is, and moisture in the air is so thick, it's collecting on the backs of the bugs and dripping off and off on down into the trees and running in. And in the pond, there's these fish that they just don't have the energy to swim, really. I mean, they're just kind of lazily going back and forth with their tails, but not doing anything. And these turtles and frogs that are amongst the rocks, they have no energy, and they just stare lazily up and looking at this overhang and feeling the sun baking into this area of the pond. I mean, it is so hot. And then one of the hippos turns to the other and says, "You know, I just can't get it into my head that it's Tuesday."